The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his apostles, "Who among you would say to your servant, who has just come in from plowing or tending sheep in the field, 'Come here immediately and take your place at table'? Would he not rather say to him, 'Prepare something for me to eat, put on your apron and wait on me while I eat and drink? You may eat and drink when I am finished'? Is he grateful to that servant because he did what was commanded? So should it be with you. When you have done all you have been commanded, say, 'We are unprofitable servants. We have done what we were obliged to do.'" The Gospel of the Lord. Well, perhaps we might think, if we had a servant who was out working all day in the fields, plowing or taking care of the sheep, and then came in at the end of the day all very tired, we might say, "Hey, buddy, come on, sit down. I'll give you a little something to eat so you can relax after working all day." But Jesus says, no, that's not the way it is. The servant comes in and the master says, "Okay, now it's time for me to have something to eat. After all, I've been sitting around relaxing all day and taking a nice nap, but now it's time to eat and you better get me something. So go on to work." And Jesus says, and we shouldn't be resentful about that at all. We should rather say, "And we're not that good anyway, we're just unprofitable servants," or as an earlier translation put it, "We are only useless servants who have done no more than our duty." And actually, that's not a bad attitude for us to have. Indeed, isn't that Jesus' attitude about himself? The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. And then Jesus goes on to say, and to go all the way to give his life as a ransom for many. And so to be servants in this style that Jesus talks about in the gospel today is simply imitating the Lord, imitating the one whom we know is our leader, our Savior, our good shepherd. So it requires something of an attitude adjustment sometimes to recognize that living out our lives as servants of the gospel of Jesus isn't a put down, but it is rather a way of praising us, of building us up, because we can be just like Jesus, servants as he was. And we want to do that in the way of a family, looking out for one another, because as St. Paul in his letter to Titus is indicating, and as comes up in other places in the New Testament, we are God's family. And so it is God who is our loving Father, and Jesus is our older brother who has given himself totally for us. And so we want to be there as sisters and brothers of one another. All of us trying to live temperately, justly, and devoutly in this age as we await the blessed hope, the appearance of the glory of the great God and of our Savior Jesus Christ. We know that this is just part one of life, and we are longing for part two, when we will be gathered up into the glory of God, when we will be transformed by resurrection. And so one of the things that I hope we can all do is to go forth every day from our celebration of the Eucharist, or every day from our prayer, and be gracious and kind to all of God's sisters and brothers, that is to say, every other human being, and show them the love of God in our love for them. It's a big challenge, but after all, we are God's servants, just as Jesus was God's servant, and ours too.